This week, you will step through a doorway into an ordinary room, and for half a second, you will stop. You will not know why, then it will pass, and you will keep walking. In 2004, the psychologist Alan Brown pulled together 41 separate surveys of that moment. About 67% of people had felt it. 2 out of 3. It has happened to you. By the end of this, you will know which piece of tissue produces that feeling, why it fades as you get older, and why the sense that you can tell what happens next is, measurably, always empty. The feeling has a specific shape. It is not that the room reminds you of something, it is that the room feels used, worn in, like you have stood inside this exact arrangement of light and furniture before. And at the same moment, you know that you have not. Both things are true at once. That contradiction is the entire experience. Brown's numbers say something strange about it. It peaks in your late teens and 20s. Then it drops steadily, every decade after, which is backwards. Memory gets worse as you age. This should get more common. It gets rarer. And nobody could explain it, because nobody could make it happen on purpose. Then someone built a village. Cleary is a cognitive psychologist at Colorado State University. In 2012, she published a study in the journal Consciousness and Cognition with Alan Brown among her co-authors. Her problem was practical. Déjà vu lasts a few seconds, arrives unannounced, and refuses to happen inside a laboratory. So she built the laboratory out of a video game. Using The Sims 2, Cleary constructed a virtual town her lab called Déjà Vu. 128 scenes. A junkyard, a hedge garden, an arcade. Students wore headsets and walked through them. The trick was underneath. The scenes were built in secret pairs. A courtyard and a museum wing would look nothing alike. Different objects, different colors. But the layout was identical. The bench sat exactly where the bench had sat. The doorway sat exactly where the doorway had sat. Same skeleton, different skin. Then she asked, scene by scene, whether they felt déjà vu. They felt it in the twins. Not every time, but reliably more often, and only when they could not consciously remember the earlier scene. That is the mechanism. In plain language, your brain files the shape of a place separately from the story of it. The shape matches. The story fails to load. Familiarity arrives with no source attached, which raises the question that made this research famous. If your brain has quietly matched this room to another one, does it know what happens next? Cleary tested exactly that. The paper ran in Psychological Science in 2018, written with her graduate student, Alexander Claxton. This time, the scenes moved. Participants were carried through a virtual path. Left, right, right. Later, through a new path with the same turns. Dressed as somewhere else entirely. Right before the final corner, the world froze. And they were asked, which way does it go? The people in the grip of déjà vu were certain. They reported a strong, specific feeling of knowing the next turn. That feeling is the part everyone remembers. It is why people call this a premonition. They were not right. Their accuracy sat at chance. A coin flip. The confidence was real, measurable, strong. The knowledge behind it did not exist. Your brain produced a signal that says, I know what comes next, and attached it to nothing. So déjà vu is not one broken thing. It is two. Familiarity without a memory, certainty without content. Which leaves one question, where in your head does that get made? Akira O'Connor is a memory researcher at the University of St. Andrews in Scotland. His lab, with Josephine Urquhart, published the scanner work in the journal Cortex in 2018. They induced déjà vu with words instead of rooms. You hear a list: wet, snow, winter, ice, freeze. You never hear the word cold, but cold is what every one of them points at, and your brain quietly files it as heard. Then they tell you in advance that no word on the list began with the letter C. Now you are trapped. The word feels familiar. You have been told it cannot be. That is déjà vu, built out of nothing but vocabulary. 21 people went into the scanner. 16 reported the sensation. Everyone expected the hippocampus to light up. The memory structure. It didn't. What lit up were frontal regions. decision-making areas, the machinery that notices when two pieces of information disagree and stops to sort it out. O'Connor is careful about this and has said the headlines overstated him, but the direction is clear. Deja vu does not look like a memory failing. It looks like a check running. There is one more way to produce it. It requires an open skull. In 2004, a team led by Fabrice Bartholomé in Marseille published in the journal Neurology. Their patients had severe epilepsy. Electrodes had been placed deep inside their temporal lobes to find the source of the seizures. The surgeons could switch them on one at a time, while the patient sat awake and talking. They worked through 24 patients. Current into the hippocampus produced little of interest. Current into the rhinal cortex did something else. It is a small region tucked underneath, the gateway where raw sensation turns into familiarity. Stimulate it, and patients reported déjà vu, directly, repeatably, at a current of roughly 1 milliamp. That is a light switch, so it is not the soul, not a memory of a dream. Not a crack in the simulation. It is a region the size of a thumbnail, misfiring inside a brain that is otherwise working perfectly, which is where this turns around on you. Everything so far treats déjà vu as a fault, a glitch to be explained away. Look at the scanner result again. The conflict system activated. The frontal check ran, caught a familiarity signal that could not be true, and flagged it. That is not a failure. That is the fact checker working, loudly enough that you noticed it happening. Now go back to the number that opened this. Déjà vu drops steadily with age. If the sensation is your brain catching its own error, then losing it is not the same as becoming more accurate. It may only mean the checking has gotten quieter. The false familiarity still arrives. Nothing stands up to argue with it anymore. The uncanny feeling was never the malfunction. The uncanny feeling was the alarm. You have been mistaking the smoke detector for the fire. And here is the part that does not stay in the laboratory. You have never once experienced the present moment. In 2009, Moti Salti, working with Dominique Lamy and Yair Barheim at Tel Aviv University, tracked it with EEG. Conscious awareness of a simple image arrived roughly 300 to 400 milliseconds after the eye received it. A third of a second. Every moment of your life has reached you late, already processed, already sorted, already checked against everything you have ever seen. So your sense of now is not a window. It is a story your brain writes a beat behind the world and hands to you, finished. Here is the lesson, plainly. Déjà vu is that story arriving with the wrong label, familiar instead of new. And your brain, catching the error out loud. So tonight, when you stop in a doorway for no reason, nothing has gone wrong. You are simply, for 1 second, watching yourself be written.